The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was in my office on the 42nd floor, reviewing acquisition proposals, when the notification appeared on my personal phone, the device I kept separate from everything else. The one only family had the number to. Subject, Thanksgiving plans. My daughter's name glowed on the screen. Sarah, 28 years old, married for 3 years, living in Connecticut in a house I'd helped them purchase. Though her husband didn't know that. I opened it. Hi, Mum. Just wanted to let you know that we're doing Thanksgiving at Brandon's parents' house this year. His mum really wants to host, and since we went to your place last year, we thought it would be fair to alternate. Hope you understand. Maybe we can do coffee sometime in December. Love, Sarah. I read it 3 times. Then I set the phone face down on my desk and returned to the acquisition proposal. A shipping company in Singapore. 12 million in projected revenue. I made notes in the margins with my fountain pen, the Mont Blanc Sarah had given me for my 50th birthday, back when things were different, back before Brandon. My assistant knocked softly. Ms. Chen, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Thank you, Michelle. I stood, smoothing my charcoal suit, and walked to the window. 42 floors below, Manhattan moved like a living organism. I'd built this view. 30 years of 16-hour days, missed recitals, business dinners instead. Of bedtime stories, all of it to create something that would outlast me. Something I could pass down to Sarah. But she didn't want it. She wanted Brandon's mother's house in Connecticut with its chintz curtains and collection of porcelain roosters. She wanted to be the wife who made perfect pie crusts and organized charity galas. She wanted to forget that her mother was Margaret Chen, CEO of Chen Global Industries, Forbes 500, net worth exceeding $2 billion. She wanted to be someone else's daughter. I picked up my phone and typed a response. That sounds lovely, sweetheart. Enjoy your holiday. I didn't add that I'd be alone, that I'd spend Thanksgiving reviewing quarterly reports in my penthouse the way I had the year before she was born, and the year before that, back when I was clawing my way up from nothing, back when being alone was a choice, not a consequence. If you're enjoying this story of hidden strength and the price of success, please like this video and subscribe for more emotional narratives. Your support means everything. Thanksgiving arrived cold and clear. I woke at 5:30 as always, ran 4 miles on the treadmill in my home gym, showered, dressed in casual clothes that still cost more than most people's monthly rent. By 7, I was at my desk with coffee and the Tokyo market reports. Work was reliable. Work didn't send passive-aggressive emails about alternating holidays. My phone buzzed at noon. A photo from Sarah, the image, showed a dining room I recognized from the 2 times I'd been to Brandon's parents' house. Oak table, ladder-back chairs, a turkey that looked like it came from a magazine spread. Sarah stood between Brandon and his mother, Patricia. All 3 were smiling. Patricia's hand rested on Sarah's shoulder. The gesture was possessive, maternal, everything I hadn't been. I studied Sarah's face. She looked happy, genuinely happy, in a way she never looked in photos with me. There was ease in her posture, lightness in her smile. She belonged there, in that warm Connecticut dining room, with people who valued her for being Brandon's wife instead of Margaret Chen's daughter. I texted back, "Beautiful. Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart." Then I returned to work. At 3 o'clock, Michelle called. "I'm sorry to bother you on the holiday, but we have a situation with the Singapore acquisition." "What kind of situation?" "Their primary investor is pulling out. They're looking for emergency capital, or they'll have to accept the offer from Strauss International instead." Strauss International, my main competitor for the past 15 years. Run by Marcus Strauss, a man who'd once told me at a conference that women lacked the killer instinct for major acquisitions. "How much do they need?" "30 million to close the gap," I smiled. "Wire them 40. And send flowers to their CEO with a note that says we're committed to partnership, not just acquisition." On it. "And Ms. Chen?" "Happy Thanksgiving." "You too, Michelle." I hung up and looked at Sarah's photo again, at Patricia's hand on her shoulder, at the family I wasn't part of. Then I deleted the image and went back to work. By the time the sun set over Manhattan, I'd secured the Singapore deal, reviewed 3 additional proposals, and made notes for Monday's strategy session. My Thanksgiving dinner was take-out Thai food, eaten at my desk, while on a conference call with our London office. It was fine. It was always fine. I'd built an empire. I'd created something that mattered, something that would endure. If the cost was eating pad Thai alone on Thanksgiving while my daughter celebrated with someone else's family, then that was the price of ambition. I'd paid worse. The week after Thanksgiving, I was in a meeting with our legal team when Michelle appeared in the doorway. Her expression was carefully neutral, which meant something was wrong. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have a visitor. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. About Sarah." My heart stopped. "What's wrong? Is she hurt?" "No, ma'am. She's fine. The visitor is—" Michelle glanced at her notes. "Patricia Whitmore. She says she's your daughter's mother-in-law." Every person in the conference room turned to look at me. I kept my face empty. "Excuse me a moment." I found Patricia in my outer office, perched on the edge of Michelle's guest chair, like a bird uncertain of its landing. She wore a camel-colored coat and pearls. Her handbag was Coach. Her shoes were sensible flats. She looked exactly like what she was, an upper-middle-class Connecticut housewife who'd wandered into the wrong altitude. She stood when she saw me. "Ms. Chen, thank you for seeing me. I know you're busy. Mrs. Whitmore." I shook her hand, firm grip, no weakness. "Please, come into my office." I led her through the doors, past the Rothko on the wall, the view of Central Park, the desk that cost more than her car. I saw her taking it, all in, recalibrating whatever assumptions she'd made about Sarah's mother. "Can I offer you coffee? Water?" "No, thank you." She sat in one of my guest chairs, hands folded on her lap. "I won't take much of your time. I came because there's something you need to know about Brandon." I settled behind my desk and waited. She took a breath. "He's controlling Sarah, isolating her from you, from her friends, from everyone who knew her before the marriage." I didn't see it at first. I thought he was just devoted, protective, but it's gotten worse. "Tell me everything." The story came out in careful, measured sentences. How Brandon had encouraged Sarah to quit her job at the non-profit where she'd worked. How he monitored her phone, her emails, her social media. How he'd convinced her that her college friends were bad influences and her mother was too focused on work to really care. "The Thanksgiving email," Patricia said. "He wrote it. I saw him typing on her laptop while she was in the shower. She didn't even know he'd sent it until later, and when she tried to call you to explain, he told her she was being disrespectful to me, that my feelings mattered more than yours. And you're telling me this, why?" She met my eyes. "Because I raised a son who's become something I don't recognize, because Sarah cried in my bathroom on Thanksgiving, saying she missed you but couldn't figure out how to fix things, and because when I tried to talk to Brandon about it, he told me to mind my own business and threatened to keep me from seeing my grandchildren. Sarah's pregnant." "No, but he talks about it like it's already decided, like she's just an incubator for the next generation of Whitmores." Patricia's voice cracked. "I thought I was helping by hosting Thanksgiving. I thought I was giving them a nice family holiday, but I was just playing into his hands, helping him separate her from the only parent she has left." I thought about Sarah's father, dead, 12 years now, killed by a drunk driver when she was 16, how she clung to me at the funeral, this gangly teenager who suddenly understood that nothing was permanent, how I'd promised her I'd always be there, and then promptly built an empire instead. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I don't know, but you're Margaret Chen. You run a billion-dollar company. You make impossible things happen every day." She leaned forward. "So make this happen. Get my daughter-in-law back. Save her from my son." I didn't call Sarah. Instead, I called Richard Kumar, the head of my security division. Richard was ex-FBI, discreet and utterly loyal. He'd handled everything from corporate espionage to employee background checks in the 15 years he'd worked for me. "I need information on someone," I said. "Brandon Whitmore, married to my daughter. Personal matter. Very personal. And Richard, this one stays between us." "Understood." The report arrived 48 hours later. I read it in my office after everyone else had gone home, the Manhattan skyline glittering beyond my windows like a promise or a threat. Brandon James Whitmore, 29 years old, B.A. from Yale, M.B.A. from Wharton, worked at his father's investment firm, handling mid-level portfolios. Decent performance, nothing exceptional, no criminal record, no obvious red flags. But financial analysis showed interesting patterns. Credit card statements revealed charges to luxury hotels on dates that didn't match his business travel calendar. Cell phone records showed regular calls to a number registered to a woman named Melissa Thornton, who worked as a yoga instructor in Stamford. Melissa Thornton, who, according to social media, was so grateful for the support during this difficult pregnancy journey. The same Melissa Thornton, whose rent on a two-bedroom apartment in downtown Stamford was paid by a corporate account registered to Brandon's personal LLC. I set down the report and looked at the photo Richard had included. Melissa was blonde, younger than Sarah, beautiful in that effortless way some women managed. She was smiling at the camera, one hand on her visibly pregnant belly. Brandon was having an affair, getting his mistress pregnant while controlling his wife so thoroughly that she couldn't even send her own mother a Thanksgiving email. My daughter was married to a monster, and she had no idea. I picked up my phone and texted Patricia Whitmore. "Are you free for lunch tomorrow?" The response came. Immediately. "Yes." "Where?" I named a restaurant in Midtown. Quiet, private, the kind of place where you could have difficult conversations without being overheard. "I'll be there," she replied. I forwarded Richard's report to my personal printer and watched it emerge, page after damning page. Evidence of Brandon's double life, proof that my daughter's marriage was built on lies. The question was what to do with it. I could show it to Sarah directly, watch her world collapse, force her to choose between believing me and believing the man who'd systematically isolated her from everyone who loved her. Or I could be strategic, patient, careful. I could remember that I didn't build a $2 billion empire by being impulsive. I called Michelle. "Clear my calendar for the next 2 weeks. Personal matter. Everything okay?" "It will be." Patricia arrived at the restaurant wearing the same camel coat, different pearls. She looked tired, older than she had in my office. The kind of aging. That happens when you realize your child isn't who you thought they were. I knew that feeling. We ordered, she got a salad she wouldn't eat, I got the salmon I'd finish out of habit, and then I slid the folder across the table. "Before you look at this, I need to know, how far are you willing to go to help Sarah?" She opened the folder. I watched her face change as she read, the color draining, the small gasp, the hand pressed to her mouth. Oh my God, that's why he wanted the separate bank account. That's why he insisted Sarah stay home. She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. He's planning to leave her. Once the baby's born, once his heir is here, he'll divorce Sarah and legitimize this mistress, I supplied. The word is mistress. Does Sarah know? No. And if we tell her now while she's isolated and emotionally dependent on him, what do you think happens? Patricia closed the folder. She won't believe us. She'll think we're trying to sabotage her marriage. She'll choose him. Exactly. So we need to be smarter than that. What do you suggest? I'd spent the previous night thinking about this, turning it over from every angle, the way I did with acquisition strategies and market expansions. My daughter's life was just another problem to solve, another challenge to overcome. The thought made me sick, but it also made me effective. Brandon is controlling Sarah because he's convinced her she needs him, I said, that she's not capable of independence, that her life before him was somehow inadequate. We need to reverse that narrative, show her she's stronger than she knows, give her reasons to rediscover herself. How? You're going to invite her to volunteer with you at the women's shelter you mentioned during Thanksgiving. Patricia blinked. I didn't mention any women's shelter during Thanksgiving. You will have mentioned it. Specifically, you'll tell Sarah that you volunteer every Thursday afternoon, helping women who've left abusive relationships. You'll ask if she wants to join you. Brandon won't object because it makes him look good, his wife doing charity work with his mother. And then she'll meet women who remind her what control looks like, what isolation feels like. She'll start to see the patterns, and while she's doing that, I'm going to hire her. Hire her for what? A consulting position at Chen Global Industries. Part-time, flexible hours, working on our non-profit partnership division. It's real work, meaningful work, but it's also a way to get her out of that house and back into the world, back into her own identity. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. And when do we tell her about Melissa? When she's strong enough to leave him? When she has her own money, her own support system, her own sense of self? When the revelation will push her toward freedom instead of further into his control? You've done this before, strategized like this. I've run a company for 30 years. Every problem has a solution if you're willing to be patient enough to find it. She studied me across the table. I misjudged you. At Thanksgiving, I thought you were just a workaholic who'd neglected her daughter. But you're more than that. I am a workaholic who neglected her daughter, but I'm also someone who fixes her mistakes. I met her eyes. Are you in? Patricia picked up her water glass. Her hand was steady. I'm in. We're halfway through this story of strategy, betrayal, and a mother's determination to save her daughter. If you're invested in seeing how this unfolds, please like this video and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. The call came on a Sunday afternoon. Mom, it's Sarah. I was in my home office reviewing contracts, but I set everything aside. Sweetheart, how are you? I'm good. Listen, I know this is last minute, but are you free for coffee tomorrow? Patricia mentioned she runs into you sometimes in the city, and I thought maybe. The lie was so smooth I almost believed it myself. I'd love that. There's a cafe near my office, 11 o'clock. Perfect. See you then. She hung up before I could say anything else. Before I could tell her I loved her, that I'd missed her, that I'd spent every day since Thanksgiving wanting to call, but knowing I needed to wait. Patience, strategy, the long game. The cafe was one I'd chosen carefully. Upscale enough to be comfortable, casual enough to not be intimidating. I arrived early and claimed a corner table, ordering a cappuccino I wouldn't drink. Sarah walked in at 11:03. She'd lost weight. Her clothes hung differently, and there were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. But she smiled when she saw me, and it reached her eyes. Hi, Mom. Hi, baby. We hugged, and she felt fragile in my arms. Breakable. When had my daughter become breakable? We sat, ordered, made small talk about the weather, the holidays, nothing that mattered. Then Sarah took a breath. I'm sorry about Thanksgiving, about the email. Brandon thought it would be better to alternate, and I didn't want to make things difficult. You never make things difficult, Sarah. I used to, when I was younger. You remember, I fought you on everything. College choices, career paths, dating. You must have been so relieved when I finally settled down. Settled down. The phrase made my skin crawl. I was never relieved that you stopped fighting, I said carefully. I was proud of your independence, your fire. I worried sometimes that I'd pushed you too hard to be like me and not enough to be yourself. Brandon says I'm too much like you sometimes, too focused on achievement, not enough on building a home. What do you think? She stirred her latte, not drinking it. I think I'm tired. I thought marriage would make me feel secure, but instead I feel like I'm constantly trying to be good enough. For him, for Patricia, for everyone except myself. This was the opening, the moment I'd been waiting for. I could feel it like a shift in the air pressure before a storm. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? I asked. I don't know. Not in a while. I have a proposition for you. A consulting position at Chen Global Industries. Part-time, flexible hours. We're expanding our non-profit partnership division, and I need someone with your background and passion, someone who understands both the corporate side and the human side of social impact." Sarah looked up sharply. "You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity to use your skills, to remember who you were before you became Brandon's wife." I leaned forward. "You have a master's degree in non-profit management. You were brilliant at your last job before you left to focus on the marriage. Don't you miss it?" "Every day," she whispered. "But Brandon said—" "What do you say, Sarah? Not Brandon. You." She was quiet for a long time. Outside the window, Manhattan moved at its relentless pace. Yellow cabs, delivery trucks, people with purpose and direction, people who hadn't forgotten how to want things. "Can I think about it?" she finally asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." But I could see it in her eyes, the spark, the tiny flame of something that looked like hope. Sarah took the job. She started the following Monday, working 2 days a week in our non-profit division. I'd set her up with a small office on the 38th floor, close enough to be accessible, but far enough to give her independence. I'd assigned her a real project, partnership evaluation for our education initiatives in Southeast Asia. I'd also made sure she worked closely with Rebecca Martinez, our head of non-profit strategy. Rebecca was 35, brilliant, and a survivor of an abusive marriage. She didn't know Sarah's situation. That wasn't my secret to tell, but she radiated the kind of strength that came from climbing out of darkness. Meanwhile, Patricia had implemented her part of the plan. Thursday afternoons, Sarah volunteered at the women's shelter. She helped residents with job applications, listened to their stories, witnessed their courage. She was seeing, really seeing. "She's changing," Patricia told me over the phone one evening. Last Thursday, one of the women at the shelter was talking about how her ex-husband used to control her bank account, and I saw Sarah's face. Like something clicked. "Has Brandon noticed?" "Oh, he's noticed. He's been calling her constantly during work hours, showing up at the shelter to pick her up, even though she has her own car. He's getting nervous." "Good. Nervous people make mistakes." Rebecca gave me similar reports. "Sarah's incredible at this work. She has real insight into how to structure partnerships that actually serve the communities instead of just making corporations look good. But she second-guesses herself constantly, asks permission for things she shouldn't need permission for." "Like what?" "Like staying late to finish a presentation, like accepting a lunch invitation from a colleague, like having opinions." Rebecca paused. "Margaret, I don't know what her situation is, but I recognize the patterns. Does she need help?" "She's getting it. Thank you for being part of that." 6 weeks into Sarah's new job, I invited her to lunch at my office. We ate Thai food, her favorite, though I suspected she hadn't had it in a while, and talked about her projects. "The school program in Thailand is incredible," she said, animated in a way I hadn't seen in years. "But I think we could do more. Partner with local NGOs instead of just funding them. Create mentorship programs that connect students with professionals in their fields. Real investment, not just charity. Write up a proposal, present it to the board next month." She froze. "The board? Mom, I'm just a part-time consultant. I can't." "You absolutely can. You have the expertise and the passion. The only thing stopping you is you. Brandon says I should focus on being supportive, not ambitious. That ambition makes women hard." I set down my chopsticks very carefully. "Sarah, look at me." She did. "I'm ambitious. I built this company from nothing. I work 16-hour days and fly to 5 continents a year and make decisions that affect thousands of lives. Does that make me hard? No. It makes you're different. I'm not different. I'm just a woman who refused to believe that wanting things was a character flaw." I reached across the desk and took her hand. "You're my daughter. You're allowed to want things too." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't even know what I want anymore. I feel like I've been asleep for 3 years, and I'm just starting to wake up, and everything is confusing and scary and—" My phone buzzed. A message from Richard Kumar. "You need to see this, now." "Sarah, I'm sorry. I need to take this. Can we continue this conversation tonight? Dinner? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yeah, that would be nice. After she left, I called Richard. What is it? Brandon just purchased airline tickets, one way to the Cayman Islands. Departure date is 3 days from now. My blood went cold. Just him? Him and Melissa Thornton. Her baby's due in 2 weeks. I think he's planning to disappear, set up his new family offshore, where Sarah can't touch him legally. What about their joint assets? He's been liquidating, slowly, carefully, but it's all moving into offshore. Accounts in his name only. The house, the cars, the investment portfolio. He's positioned everything so he can take it all. Does Sarah know? I don't think she even knows the accounts exist. He's been handling all the finances. I thought about my daughter's face at lunch, the tears in her eyes, the fragile hope of someone learning to want things again. If Brandon left in 3 days, it would destroy her, send her spiraling back into the darkness, convinced that her brief moment of strength had caused this, that wanting things, being ambitious, had cost her everything. I couldn't let that happen. Richard, I need you to arrange something for me. What kind of something? I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. The kind that reminds Brandon Whitmore why you don't mess with Margaret Chen's daughter. The next morning, I called Brandon. He sounded surprised when Michelle put me through. Ms. Chen, this is unexpected. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I wanted to discuss something related to Sarah's new position. Oh? His tone was carefully neutral. What about it? She's been doing exceptional work. So exceptional that I'd like to offer her a full-time position with a significant title and compensation package. But given that you're family now, I thought it would be appropriate to discuss it with you first, as a courtesy. Silence. I could practically hear him recalculating. That's very thoughtful, he finally said. What kind of position? Vice President of Global Non-Profit Strategy, 6-figure salary, stock options, travel to project sites around the world. It would be demanding, but Sarah has proven she can handle it. I see. More silence. Could we discuss this in person? Perhaps later today. I'd like to understand the full scope of what you're proposing. Of course. My office at 3. I'll be there. I hung up and called Richard. He took the bait. Is everything ready? Conference room is set up. Recording equipment is tested. Legal. A team is standing by. Perfect. Brandon arrived at 2:55 p.m., wearing his best suit and his most charming smile. He shook my hand with practiced confidence, complimented my office view, accepted the coffee Michelle offered. I let him get comfortable. Thank you for coming, I said, settling behind my desk. I know this is unusual, but family dynamics can be complicated. I wanted to make sure you were on board before offering Sarah this position. I appreciate that. Sarah's lucky to have a mother who's so supportive of her career. You support her career too, I assume. Absolutely, though I do think there's value in maintaining work-life balance. Sarah's been happier since she left her old job, more focused on our marriage. Interesting. She's told me she misses working. His smile tightened almost imperceptibly. She may have mentioned that, but I think she's romanticizing it. The stress, the long hours, it wasn't healthy for her, and you would know what's healthy for her. Better than she would? I'm her husband. I think I have some insight into her well-being. I opened a folder on my desk, the one Richard had prepared, the one with everything. Speaking of marriage, I said casually, how long have you and Melissa Thornton been together? All the color drained from his face. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Because I have bank statements showing regular transfers to her apartment, cell phone records documenting daily calls, photos of you two, together including several from last week where she's quite visibly pregnant, and airline confirmations for your departure to the Cayman Islands in 2 days. He stood abruptly. You had me investigated. I protected my daughter. There's a difference. I remained seated, calm. Sit down, Brandon. I don't have to listen to this. You do if you want any chance of salvaging your reputation, because right now I have enough evidence to destroy you. Corporate fraud. You've been using company resources for personal affairs. Asset concealment. Those offshore accounts violate several disclosure requirements. And my personal favorite, abandonment of marital assets. If I give this to Sarah's divorce attorney, you'll be lucky to leave this marriage with your car. He sat down. His hands were shaking. What do you want? He asked. I want you to understand something very clearly. You saw my daughter as an easy target, someone you could control, manipulate, isolate. You thought that because I was busy building a company I wouldn't notice. You thought you were smarter than me. Ms. Chen, you're not smarter than me. You're not even in the same league. I've built a $2 billion empire. I've negotiated with heads of state and hostile board members and competitors who would eat you for breakfast. You're a mid-level portfolio manager with delusions of adequacy. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city I'd conquered. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home and tell Sarah the truth, all of it. Melissa, the baby, the offshore accounts, the planned departure. You're going to give her every financial document, every password, every piece of information she needs to protect herself. And then you're going to move out. And if I don't, I turned back to face him, then I release everything. To Sarah, to your employer, to the SEC, to every media outlet that might find it interesting that a Yale and Wharton graduate committed multiple types of fraud while cheating on his wife. Your father's firm will fire you to avoid the scandal. Melissa will leave you when she realizes you're broke, and you'll spend the next decade rebuilding a reputation you torpedoed in 3 years. His face had gone grey. You can't prove the fraud. I have 3 forensic accountants and 2 former SEC investigators on retainer. They can prove anything. The question is whether you're going to make me prove it. He was quiet for a long time. I loved her, he finally said. At first, I really did. Then you should have been worthy of her love, but you weren't. You're a small man who needed to make someone else smaller to feel big, and now you're going to face the consequences. I pressed the intercom. Michelle, please show Mr. Whitmore out and make sure security escorts him from the building. Brandon stood on shaking legs. At the door, he turned back. She'll never forgive you for this. For interfering, for ruining her marriage. Her marriage was already ruined. I just made sure she survived it. I met his eyes. And Brandon, if you ever contact my daughter again after today, if you ever try to hurt her or manipulate her or make her feel small, I will use every resource at my disposal to make you disappear. Not literally, but professionally, socially, financially, you'll vanish. Do you understand? He understood. He left. I sat down at my desk and allowed myself 1 minute of shaking, 1 minute of rage and fear and fury at what this man had tried to do to my daughter. Then I called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. Mom, I was just about to call you. Brandon just came home in the middle of the day and he's acting really strange. He says we need to talk about something important. My heart clenched. Sarah, where are you right now? Home. He's upstairs packing a bag. He says he's going to stay at a hotel for a few days. I don't understand what's happening. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whatever Brandon tells you in the next few hours is going to be difficult to hear, but I need you to remember something. None of it is your fault. Do you understand me? None of this is because of anything you did or didn't do. Mom, you're scaring me. I know, baby, I'm sorry. But I also need you to know that I'm here. Patricia is here, Rebecca from work, the women at the shelter, everyone who's watched you become yourself again these past few weeks. We're all here. You're not alone. What did you do? What I should have done the day you sent me that Thanksgiving email. I protected you. She was quiet. I could hear Brandon's footsteps in the background, the sound of drawers opening and closing. He's coming downstairs, she whispered. I have to go. Call me when you're ready. Any time, day or night. I love you, Sarah. I love you too. She hung up. I spent the next 6 hours in my office, unable to focus on work, unable to do anything but wait. Michelle brought me dinner I didn't eat. The sun set over Manhattan. My phone stayed silent. At 11 p.m., it finally rang. Mom! Her voice was wrecked, raw. the sound of someone who'd cried until they had nothing left. "I'm here, sweetheart. Can you come get me? I'm at Patricia's house. Brandon told me everything, and I can't go back to that house right now, and I need you. I'm on my way." I drove to Connecticut myself, something I never did. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart was breaking. Patricia's house was lit up, like a beacon. I found them in the living room. Sarah on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, Patricia beside her holding her hand. Sarah looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were swollen, her face blotchy. She looked young and lost and broken. "He's having a baby with someone else," she said. "He was going to leave me, take everything and just disappear to the Cayman Islands like I was nothing, like 3 years of marriage was nothing." I sat on her other side and pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbing. "You're not nothing," I said fiercely. "You're everything. You're brilliant and passionate and strong, and he's a small, cruel man who tried to make you forget that. But he failed, Sarah. He failed because you're my daughter, and we don't stay down. I should have seen it, all the signs, the control, the isolation. I work with domestic violence survivors now. I know what it looks like. How did I not see it in my own life? Because you were inside it. Because he was very, very good at making you doubt yourself. Because love makes us vulnerable in ways we can't always predict." Patricia squeezed her hand. "I didn't see it either, honey. And I'm his mother. We all missed it until your mom started paying attention." Sarah pulled back to look at me. Her eyes were red but clear. "You had him investigated." "Yes, that's pretty invasive, Mom." "I know. And if you want to be angry about it, you have every right. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat to keep you safe." A laugh bubbled up through her tears, slightly hysterical but genuine. "You're terrifying sometimes, you know that." "I've been told." She leaned against me again, and we sat like that for a long time. 3 women in a Connecticut living room, holding each other up while the world recalibrated around them. "What happens now?" Sarah finally asked. "Now you divorce him," I said. "You take him for everything he tried to take from you. You keep your job, if you want it. You rebuild your life, exactly the way you want it to be. And you let yourself be angry and sad and scared and strong, sometimes all at the same time. I don't know if I can do this." "You can, because you already have been. Every day these past few weeks, choosing to work, to volunteer, to remember who you were. That was you being strong. This is just the next step." Patricia stood. "I'm going to make tea, and then we're all going to get some sleep, because tomorrow we have a lot of planning to do. Legal strategy, financial protection, all of it. But tonight we rest." She left the room. Sarah and I sat in the quiet, listening to the sound of water boiling in the kitchen. "I'm sorry I shut you out," Sarah said softly, "after Thanksgiving, and before that. I'm sorry I let him convince me you didn't care. I'm sorry I gave you reasons to believe it. I was so focused on building something to pass down to you that I forgot to just be present while you grew up. I thought providing for you was the same as being there for you. I was wrong. You're here now. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." She took my hand. Her grip was strong, not fragile at all. My daughter was going to be okay. The divorce took 6 months. Brandon tried to fight it at first, claiming Sarah had abandoned the marriage by taking a job without his consent. His lawyer was expensive, but outmatched. My legal team, led by the best family law attorney in New York, systematically dismantled every argument he made. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial fraud, asset concealment, adultery. In Connecticut, a fault-based divorce state, Brandon didn't stand a chance. In the end, Sarah got the house, half of all marital assets, including the ones he'd tried to hide, and a settlement that would keep her comfortable for years. Brandon got supervised visitation rights to his child with Melissa, who had, predictably, left him when she realized he was broke, and a reputation in Connecticut social circles that would follow him for the rest of his life. Patricia testified against her own son. It cost her their relationship, but she did it anyway. "Some things matter more than blood," she told the judge, "like truth." and protecting the people who can't protect themselves. Sarah moved into a brownstone in Brooklyn. Nothing like the Connecticut house, but it was hers. She decorated it herself. Bold colors, modern art, furniture that reflected her taste instead of Brandon's mother's chintz sensibility. She kept the job at Chen Global Industries, but on her own terms. Full-time, with the VP title I'd originally offered as bait. She was brilliant at it. Within a year, she'd restructured our entire non-profit partnership model, creating sustainable programs that actually served communities instead of just generating good press. She spoke at conferences, published articles, built a reputation entirely separate from being Margaret Chen's daughter or Brandon Whitmore's ex-wife. She became herself. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, we had dinner at her brownstone. She cooked, something she'd discovered she enjoyed when she wasn't doing it out of obligation. "I've been thinking about something," she said over dessert, "about why I chose Brandon in the first place, why I let him control me. And I think I was trying to be the opposite of you. You were so powerful, so independent, so focused on work. I thought being soft and dependent and domestic would make me different, better somehow. Proof that I wasn't cold like people said you were. People say I'm cold." She smiled. "People say a lot of things about powerful women. But here's what I realized. You're not cold. You're strategic. You're careful with your emotions because you've had to be. Because the world punishes women who show vulnerability, and I mistook that carefulness for not caring. I should have shown you more, been more present. Maybe. But you also showed me what it looks like to build something that matters, to refuse, to be small, even when people want you to be. I just had to learn to see it." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you for saving me, even when I didn't know I needed saving." "You saved yourself, Sarah. I just provided some resources." Classic Margaret Chen, can't even accept a thank you without deflecting. We both laughed. Later, standing on her front steps before I left, she hugged me tightly. "I'm glad you're my mom," she said, "cold and all. I'm glad you're my daughter, soft and all." I drove back to Manhattan through Brooklyn streets that smelled like possibility. My phone rang, Michelle, with a crisis in Singapore that needed my attention. Work, always work. But now there would also be Sunday dinners in Brooklyn. Phone calls that weren't just holiday check-ins, a relationship with my daughter that was built on truth instead of obligation. I'd spent 30 years building an empire, but this was the best thing I'd ever created. 2 years later, I stood before the Chen Global Industries Board of Directors and made an announcement that surprised no one who'd been paying attention. Effective next quarter, I'll be transitioning to the role of Executive Chair. Sarah Chen Whitmore will assume the position of CEO. There were murmurs, but no real opposition. Sarah had proven herself over and over. The non-profit division she'd built now generated both revenue and genuine social impact. She'd successfully navigated acquisitions, managed international crises, and earned the respect of every person in the company. She'd earned this. After the meeting, we stood together in my office, her office now, though she'd insisted on redecorating, looking out at Manhattan. "Nervous?" I asked. "Terrified. But the good kind of terrified. The kind that means I'm doing something that matters. You're going to be incredible. I learned from the best." She paused. "Mum, thank you for everything, for building this, for saving me, for showing me that being powerful and being kind aren't mutually exclusive. Thank you for reminding me why I built it in the first place. Empires are empty if you have no one to share them with." We stood in silence, two women who'd almost lost each other, who'd found their way back through fire and strategy and love that looked like investigation reports and job offers and uncomfortable truths. "What are you going to do with all your free time?" Sarah asked. "As executive chair, you'll actually have to delegate. I'm thinking about writing a book. About women in business, about the cost of ambition and the price of silence, about how we teach our daughters to be powerful without being hard, soft without being weak. That's a lot of contradictions to navigate. We're women. We navigate contradictions every day, she smiled. Truth. My phone buzzed. Patricia, texting about Thanksgiving plans. She'd become an integral part of our family. This woman who'd chosen my daughter over her son. Truth over. Loyalty. This year, Thanksgiving would be at Sarah's brownstone. Just the three of us, plus Rebecca Martinez and a few other women who'd become part of our chosen family. Women who'd survived, who'd thrived, who'd refused to stay small. I should go, I said. Executive chairs apparently have responsibilities even after they're not CEO anymore. Sarah walked me to the elevator. At the doors, she hugged me tight. I love you, Mum. Thank you for being ruthless when I needed you to be. And for teaching me that sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is refuse to accept the world's limitations. I love you too, sweetheart. Now go be the CEO this company deserves. The elevator doors closed between us. I saw my reflection in the polished steel. Margaret Chen, billionaire, empire builder mother. I'd spent 3 decades proving I could build something that would last. My daughter would make sure it actually mattered, and that more than any quarterly report or stock price was the real measure of success. Final message. Sometimes the most powerful thing a mother can do isn't provide a perfect childhood. It's provide the tools to survive an imperfect adulthood. Sometimes love looks like investigation reports and strategic planning and refusing to let your child disappear into someone else's shadow. Sometimes saving someone means letting them think they're saving themselves. To every woman reading this who's ever felt caught between being too much and not enough, between professional success and personal connection, between power and softness, you don't have to choose. You can be strategic and emotional, ruthless and kind, a CEO and a mother, powerful and vulnerable. The world will try to make you pick. Don't. And to anyone who's ever looked at their daughter, their mother, their friend, and thought, I should do something, do it. Pay attention, investigate, protect. Use whatever resources you have, because sometimes the difference between destruction and survival is just one person who refused to look away. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you these powerful narratives. Thank you for being part of this community.